y'all, it's Laura, and I am back with a boy layout for you today, which is also a school layout. So I'm going to be using a hand-stitched title with a pattern that I found just by Googling alphabet cross-stitch pattern. And I'm going to use my paper piercer tool to create the boxes for me to do cross-stitching for the top level of my title. This is really easy to do. If you can find a pattern to work with, you can just count the number of X's down each part of the letter and then just make sure that you have paper pierced all four corners of each box that you will need for each of the X's. Now, I of course will do most of this off camera, but I wanted to give you a little look at how it works in the process, and it's pretty quick overall. You do have to keep referencing your pattern though as you change letters. Now it's completely paper pierced here, and I'm going to bring in some red thread, which is DMC number 349. It's a pretty true red, and it's perfect for the collection that I'm using, which is Simple Stories' new School Life collection. And it has a nice clean red in it. It's not too orange, it's not too purple. It's a beautiful classic red. Really enjoy collections that have red, and it's funny how often I want to use red with my photos and then it's not the right shade of red in the collection. I really do like this nice classic red though. It's pretty perfect. Couple of tips for cross-stitching your title. First of all, however you start your X's, so in this case I've started at the top left of the square, gone down to the diagonal bottom right of the square, come back up the top right of the square, and gone across to the bottom left of the square. Make sure you repeat that pattern. It doesn't really matter which thread is on top in your first X, but whichever one it is, make sure all the rest are in the same pathway. The reason for this is because if you don't, it will make your stitching kind of uneven and sort of bumpy because they are coming from different directions and it just looks messy. I don't know exactly how to explain it, but it just looks messy. And so I really prefer a nice clean look with my cross stitching. I've been cross stitching for a very long time, so I have a very specific way of doing it that I know works. That is my tip. The next tip is if you find that your thread is getting really tangled, I'm having a little bit of a fight with mine at the moment, it is better to use a short thread and have to replace it more often than to use a long thread and have to fight with the tangling. However, I am extremely impatient and wanted to get this done quickly, so I am of course not going the route that I would suggest for you. Now, to start a new thread at the back, I just do several knots on top of each other so that it won't slide through the holes, and then I generally washi tape down the ends once the entire stitching is done. Another quick tip is to pull those stitches tight. You do not want loops hanging out the back of your layout. You definitely want the back just as tight as the front. Otherwise, over time, those stitches will come loose and it will look very messy. So here is the finished home. Love this font. Very cool. And I'm going to be turning this into a homeschool layout. So I had an idea with this collection, and it had to do with the cut-aparts. Now, I did use a grid background so that I could make my cross-stitching a little easier on myself and poking all of those holes, but I wanted to concentrate heavily on the cut-aparts in this collection because there are some brilliant ones, especially those tags. Dear scrapbooking companies, we need more tags. These are brilliant. That is all. So I love tags, as you can tell. And I thought it would be really fun to do a row of tags here on the right side and kind of create a dual column effect on this layout. So the left side is one column, the right side of tags is another column. And in my head, this just sounded so cool. And in the finished layout, I'm really happy with how it turned out. Even though it was a little different than I expected in my head, it was just a very cool process. And I really enjoyed filling the page. And I know there are some of my scrappy friends out there who love to fill a page. It's so satisfying to get that entire paper filled with beautiful things. And that is the kind of layout we're doing today. So to go along with my home stitched at the top, I'm going to add school underneath with the foam. They're not thickers. They're Simple Stories version, so they're just foam words. And I'm going to add Smarty underneath. Now I purposely tried to bring in some of this corkboard in the background. Either I've got one tag with the cork on it, and I've got this part of the title with the cork on it, because it blends in beautifully with our little puppy dog who was snuggled up with him during reading time. Now, we do happen to be reading the Harry Potter series for school this year, and I'm loving every minute of it. Those of you that know, I am a huge Harry Potter fan, and it has been a pure joy to share that with my son. He has avoided reading this book for a very long time, this series, because they're big books, and they're a little intimidating to younger readers, but once you get into the storyline, it normally hooks you pretty quickly, especially if you're interested in fantasy style books and stories. So I'm going to go ahead and add some stars at the end of Smarty, just to give it a little spice. And I've tucked 2 of the 3x4 cards behind each of my photos. And now I have 2 more of the cut-aparts that had this rainbow on the background. And these are from the 6x8 paper pad. And these are 3x4 cut-aparts. And I'm going to tape them together, lining them up to recreate the stripe that was on the back. And I'm going to make a background out of those 2 3x4 cards taped together, and you will see how. A little bit of tricky nonsense here, but it works. And I used a lot of cut-aparts on this one and not a lot of patterned paper. Of course, my background is patterned paper as well, but within the layout itself, all of my layers, everything is from the cut-aparts. So having cut those 2 3x4 cards into 2 sections, I'm going to put a wider bit at the bottom and then a thinner bit at the top. And it's going to look like that stripe runs the entire way up behind those photos because they're on an angle. But in reality, they're just tucked 3x4 cards that have been lined up at their background design and trickily put underneath of my photos. Love that. Love when I can make things like that happen. Now this other photo down at the bottom right is my son with his back turned. And I know a lot of us parents, nieces, nephews, grandparents, etc. have seen this look. And this is a very much, I don't want to expression. And the journaling that will accompany this layout talks a little bit about how my son is brilliant at math. Loves science. But when it comes to writing, ooh, honey, he doesn't want any part of it. And so my challenge has been for the last couple of years to get him excited to write. And as someone who has a deep passion for writing, who was an English major in college, it has been both a frustration and a pleasure to introduce him to the joys of writing and how to make it fun, how to make it interesting. In other words, we're only writing about Minecraft for the entirety of this school year. But it works. If that's what motivates your kid to write, I say go for it. I have learned so much about Minecraft that I never wanted to know through this process. And he's actually really enjoyed it. And it's helped him to learn how to create paragraphs and how to help them flow with his ideas from detail to detail. And I think he would never admit it, but I think he has enjoyed writing about Minecraft all year long. So adding in a little bit of detail with the sticker book. Now keep in mind with this sticker book, when I picked it out, I thought it was like the cardstock stickers, and it's not. It's more like the American Craft sticker books. So these are some really thin stickers. So please keep that in mind if you decide to pick this up. It is good. I still like it. But just keep in mind they're very, very thin stickers. I'm also going to bring in a label that was part of the cut apart sheet as well. And this little piece at the top that says my favorite subject was from the cut aparts as well, but it will not get to stay because I decided I needed more room to journal than that, and I end up filling the whole page. So have to get creative about where you're going to put your journaling when you fill the whole page. There were these really great 5th grade, or it had all the numbers and then thuff and and like for 5th and 2nd, so that you could put the grade that your child was going into, and then of course the word grade over and over and over again so that you can use it multiple times. And I thought that was brilliant. So I'm going to add that to this ruler tag over here to the right. I did add some large enamel dots into the holes of my tags because I thought the rest of the layout looks very clean and linear, and having all of the twine just dangling down the side would be too distracting away from the photos, and I really wanted to keep it clean and linear. So I decided to go with enamel dots. It fills in that little hole for you and gives a little extra detail without all the crazy twine hanging around the side. So I decided this little cut apart in my hand right now is perfect, but it needs to be trimmed down just a wee bit to fit inside of my tag, and so that's where I will put the majority of my journaling. In this label down here at the bottom left, underneath the Study Buddy sticker, I'm going to be talking about our dog Gracie, who absolutely loves to jump up in the chair with my son Joseph and just sit there and be petted while he's reading. And I really, really enjoy the grins and the giggles that come along with that. And I think it has made reading time a little bit easier for him, having her to cuddle with and pet while he's reading. Now, he is very careful because he doesn't like reading out loud to just anybody. I am one of the special few that is allowed to hear him reading, thank goodness. So I decided to sprinkle some of these fussy cut office supplies or school supplies across the bottom of the layout. And yes, I did fussy cut a whole page of these because I can, apparently. But I did really enjoy it. I thought these would be fun to sprinkle around. I did not get the ephemera pack for this collection because I didn't really think I'd need it. I knew I was going to be able to fussy cut a lot of cut aparts and fussy cut these little supplies off of the papers. So I was pretty sure I didn't need the ephemera pack too. I just have the sticker book. I have the 12 by 12 sticker sheet, which I didn't end up using for this layout. And I have the puffy stickers, which I also didn't use for this layout. And the titles. Yes, so I didn't really feel like I needed the ephemera pack, and I've made do without it so far. So I really like how this is turning out. I'm just going to add a few more bits and pieces onto this one. I thought I should add a little bit of something down on the bottom right photo. So I'm going to add a small black phrase sticker that says brain, I think it says brain burnout or something like that. Brain overload, perhaps, which may well have been what he was dealing with at the time, because he really doesn't like writing, guys. It breaks my heart to admit that, but he really doesn't like writing. Even though it's about Minecraft, he really doesn't like it. So adding a few little stickers there around that photo, just to kind of show the positive and the not so positive side of homeschool, because we like to keep it real on the layouts as much as possible. Adding some little stars here and there for some scattering before we bring in our Nuvo drops for some controlled splatter. I'm going to add in a few around these little school supplies at the bottom, as well as around my stars at the top. And then we'll come in with some Heidi Swap Color Shine, which is a nice gold ink spray to splatter around the clusters as well. This layout turned out so fun. It's so primary colored, it's bright, it's happy, but it's also pretty clean, and I love the 2 columns. Let me know what you think of this one in the comments below. I had such fun playing with this collection as well, and tell me if you've tried a hand-stitched title. Until next time, bye guys!